There's a gate that doesn't appear on any map. It opens, not in the desert nor in the mountains, but in the human mind, in that fragile space between memory and suggestion. What began as a government experiment to protect national security became, in truth, a descent into the forbidden arts. The project would be known as MK Ultra, and though it would later be described in bureaucratic language as a program for behavioral modification and mind control, its essence was far older than the Cold War. It was the same ancient ambition that drove magicians and mystics for centuries, the power to command the unseen forces that move human consciousness. When the Second World War ended, the battlefields shifted. The United States and the Soviet Union entered a silent war, not over lands or weapons, but over minds. Psychological warfare became the new frontier, and intelligence agencies began recruiting not only soldiers and scientists, but philosophers, hypnotists, and occultists. Men who once studied alchemy and trance were now given clearance badges and laboratories. Out of this strange marriage of science and sorcery emerged a new generation of psychonauts, researchers who believed the mind could be charted, broken, and reassembled like an experimental machine. Among them was Sidney Gottlieb, a chemist whose name would one day become synonymous with MK Ultra. Publicly, he was the CIA's poison expert, the man tasked with developing untraceable methods of killing and interrogation. Privately, his colleagues described him as ascetic, almost monastic, yet drawn to ritual and symbolism. He meditated, practiced yoga, lived on a small farm with goats, and spoke in mystical metaphors. He believed in purification through chaos, that to remake a person, one must first destroy the ego. This philosophy, though cloaked in psychology, mirrored occult initiation, the ritual dismemberment of the self to allow a higher will to enter. What Gottlieb pursued under the banner of national defense was, in spiritual terms, the ancient work of the Magus: transformation through suffering, revelation through madness. To understand MK Ultra's origins, one must understand that its roots were alchemical, not merely scientific. Alchemists sought to transmute base matter into gold, but the true gold was enlightenment, a purified consciousness. In Gottlieb's mind, the human psyche was lead, raw, impure, malleable. Through drugs, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, and trauma, he believed it could be transformed into something programmable. This was not unlike the alchemical process of solve coagula, to dissolve, then bind anew. And in every declassified document, beneath the language of conditioning and behavioral control, one can hear the echo of that formula. The subject must be broken before being made whole in the image of another's design. After the war, Operation Paperclip brought Nazi scientists to the United States. Men like Kurt Bloom, who had experimented with biological and psychological weapons for the Third Reich. Their methods inspired early CIA projects Bluebird and Artichoke, predecessors to MK Ultra. These programs tested hypnosis, electroshock, and forced drugging on soldiers, prisoners, and psychiatric patients. Each experiment was a ritual in scientific dress: initiation through pain, confession through coercion, rebirth through suggestion. But there was also something less tangible, an atmosphere of secrecy, of sacred transgression. To the men who ran these programs, they were not merely studying the mind. They were trespassing into the unseen, unlocking the mechanisms of belief, will, and identity. In 1953, MK Ultra was officially sanctioned under CIA Director Allen Dulles. The language of the project proposal spoke of mind control and behavioral modification, but Dulles himself had referred to this new warfare as the battle for the human soul. That phrase wasn't metaphorical. Documents show that Gottlieb and his colleagues studied religious trance, shamanic possession, and mystical texts alongside pharmacology. They read Aldous Huxley's The Doors of Perception and the writings of Aleister Crowley, who had long taught that through ritual and chemical illumination, the mind could be unbound and directed by will. The CIA saw a weapon in that. Where the mystics sought union with the divine, the agency sought control, the replacement of divine will with political command. In the earliest experiments, LSD was given to unsuspecting subjects: prisoners, prostitutes, soldiers, and psychiatric patients. Sometimes even fellow agents were dosed without consent. The drug was believed to open doors into the subconscious to strip away the personality and expose the raw self beneath. But in the occult, such dissolution is the first step of initiation. The initiate confronts chaos, ego death, and hallucination, a journey through the underworld before rebirth. Under MK Ultra, this sacred process became mechanical, weaponized, stripped of meaning. They didn't seek enlightenment, they sought obedience. In Crowley's Book of the Law, the initiate is told, "Destroy thyself and rebuild thyself in thy own image." Under Gottlieb, that phrase took on a chilling inversion: destroy the self and rebuild it in the image of another. Through hypnosis, trauma, and suggestion, the mind could be split into compartments, one conscious, one hidden. To intelligence officers, this promised the perfect spy, a human being who could act without memory, lie without effort, and awaken to command words like a ritual invocation. It was the magical principle of possession translated into behavioral science. The self no longer belonged to the subject, it had been bound and commanded, like a spirit in the magician's circle. Though framed as scientific progress, MK Ultra functioned as a secret religion of power. Its priests were scientists, its rituals were experiments, its scriptures were classified documents. The laboratories were its temples, places where the ordinary laws of morality were suspended in pursuit of revelation. Each subject was both offering and oracle. Their suffering was the sacrifice that promised knowledge. And while the public would come to know MK Ultra as a government scandal, its deeper nature, as a ritual of dominion over consciousness itself, remained veiled. Because behind the documents, behind the politics, the true question was never how to control others, it was how to control reality.